The doors are closing. Train departing. Please hold on.
Welcome to MAX101. Today we're going to be talking about running reverse traffic, manual blocks, and dwarf signals. Yay, another episode on signals. So firstly, what is running reverse traffic? Now I've talked about this before. On episode 10, I talked about the reverser. So the reverser allows you to move your train in a certain direction. But train operators are only allowed to drive the train in forward. Running reverse traffic does not mean driving the train in reverse. It does not mean switching your reverser over to reverse and then moving the train in that direction. No, because again, train operators are not allowed to do that. Running reverse traffic means the driver will be switching cabs and running the train in the wrong direction on the track. So in some places around the country or around the world, it's sometimes known as wrong railing. So trains going in one direction on one of the tracks would be going in the right direction, but the other one will be wrong railing in the other direction because it's on the wrong rail. Now the Steel Bridge project is currently going on right now, and they are kinda sort of doing this for a short section of track. Think about the Old Town MAX station. They're pulling trains in and parking them at Old Town. Then the train comes back out on the same rail before having to switch over the switch and go back toward Hillsborough. So during that short section from Old Town to the switch, trains are running in both directions there. And so when it is coming back and it's about to hit that switch, that short section is where it's running reverse traffic. It's on the wrong rail, running the wrong direction. So that, for that short section, is known as running reverse traffic. So that's the best example, the best current example of where that's a regular practice. So let's make up an example of where trains will be running reverse traffic. Let's pick Willow Creek and Elmonica stations. Now, what'll happen is trains will pull into Willow Creek, and they will use the crossover right afterwards and will go on to the westbound main line. That's the track up top, the westbound main line. And so trains here will be running in both directions. So between that crossover and going all the way down to Elmonica, they will be on the wrong rail. And then there's a switch at Elmonica to bring trains back over to the regular eastbound main line, and trains will resume in two directions. This is a very long distance of just running reverse traffic, but it's going to illustrate the point. This section of track between Willow Creek and a little bit east of Elmonica, this is known as a manual block. This is kind of like on road work, how they'll close one lane of traffic and they'll divert traffic into the wrong lane for a little bit and then swing back out. That little zone there of where you have to do that is basically the same thing as a manual block, where trains will have to go into the other rail, go all the way through, and then come back out. Because the other track needs to be closed for whatever reason, whether it's wire maintenance or track maintenance or whatever. A zone will be set up for trains to run reverse traffic, and that zone is known as a manual block. So the operation here is, if you're a westbound train, well, it's the same track you normally take. So westbound trains will run normally through here. The only difference is that they will have to run at reduced speed. Eastbound trains are where the fun begins. They will stop at Willow Creek, then switch over to the westbound main line, all the way down. It'll serve Elmonica, the other platform. Then, after Elmonica, is the crossover to switch back to the eastbound main line. So for that whole area, it's running reverse traffic. Both directions of trains and travel are guarded and directed by rail supervisors, kind of like flaggers on the road for, again, those little road work zones where you have to go around a closed lane, and you have flaggers at both ends. It's kind of the same thing with rail supervisors who will let you go through. The way it works is one train is allowed through in each direction after the other. So an eastbound train is let through, then a westbound train is let through, then an eastbound train is let through, and then a westbound train will be let through. Even if it's really busy and there's two eastbounds right behind each other, that second one's going to have to wait. It's only one in each direction. So I've talked about reduced speed. Reduced speed is 20 miles an hour or the posted speed limit. Although the Robertson Tunnel is a little weird because for the most part they do let you go at full speed. Although if there were going to be workers present in any area, the speeds may be reduced. Imagine this manual block operation as like being given a baton or a highlighter. Let's just imagine that this is a baton like in a relay race. Now, if you pull your train up to the start of the work zone, imagine being given a baton as a train driver that you got to hold on to. So now you keep a hold of this, you drive through to the other end of the work zone, or to the other end of the manual block, and you hand the baton to the other supervisor. That means that your train has successfully gone through the manual block. Now the supervisor on the other end has the baton. That way when the next train comes through, they will be given the baton and they'll take it back, and it comes to the other supervisor that originally gave that to you. So this ensures that one train goes one way, then they'd give the baton off, then it comes back the other way, they give the baton off, then it comes back the other way. That way, there's no way, if I were a train right behind another train and I pulled up to it, well, that guy has the baton. I have to wait until the baton comes back to me. So it's kind of like that. They actually used to have a similar system to this where they'd hand you a medallion that you'd have to hold on to, but now it's just all logged down, recorded, so just to make sure that trains enter, go through the block, and make it out of the block safely. It's a dangerous operation because, well, it's a single track and with trains running in both directions. So it is a collision hazard. And so having a system where you only let one train through in each direction at a time, even if it's really busy, is the safest way of doing things. So now let's talk about dwarf signals. So take a look at them. Here's one. These pictures are not mine. These are pictures from MaxFax. You notice it's a little signal by the edge of the tracks. Here's another one. Yeah, they're not always short. Dwarf signals don't mean that they're just really short. The thing that makes these special is that they only show a red aspect. So, unlike a normal auto block signal where it will show a red, yellow, or green, or perhaps just a red or yellow, or red or lunar, this just shows red. That's it. The only thing it can display is a stop signal. The purpose of these is to protect power switches for trains that run reverse traffic. So power switches are interesting because, well, when you're going in the normal direction, there will likely be a call loop wherever you are. You press the call button and the switch is set properly. But when you're running reverse traffic, those same power switches, you're coming at them from the wrong side. So they put a signal there and it's protected and the light is always on. If you ever look at some of them, you'd never know that they were different than any other auto block signals, that they just show a red light, but they are called by a different name. They're just dwarf signals. They only are able to display a stop aspect. And because, well, they are built like just general auto block signals, it's only used in ABS territory. The only way to get past a dwarf signal is to bypass it. I'm going to talk about this in more detail at a later date, but the general idea is once you begin to bypass the signal, it gives you 23 seconds to bypass the signal before the magnet will become active again. So right, it's a red signal, and that means there must be an ATS magnet in the rails. This magnet remains active, but as soon as you bypass the signal, the magnetic field will shut down for 23 seconds and allows your train to pass over it. And then after that amount of time, the magnetic field will become active again. So this is the only way of getting past a red dwarf signal. You also must stop and observe all switch points when going over a switch. So especially for, really with any kind of switch. So the video you're looking at now is from the Lloyd Max project from a couple years back. And the train has to come to a stop, observe the switch points and make sure they're set properly before continuing over the switch. And because it's a manually thrown switch and a very sensitive switch, you're limited to 5 miles an hour when actually switching over it. Then, at the other end, at the other side of the switch point, the train comes to a stop again. He'll observe the switch point and make sure it's set properly before proceeding through again at 5 miles an hour. So yeah, it takes forever to switch over some switches, or it takes forever to get through manual blocks, or whatever. But it's all for the safety of everybody around. The workers, train driver, passengers, and all the surrounding trains, cars, buses, whatever. It's just for the safety of everyone there that everything is done at reduced speed, and that you must stop at every single switch point. Even if you're not switching over, you still must stop at the switch, observe it, and if there's a dwarf signal there, you'll have to bypass it. Now, if you pay attention to some other areas, especially by gated intersections where there's a station there, you might notice that there's a stop sign. It doesn't look like a regular car stop sign, but it is red and it just says stop in it. And this is for use for trains running reverse traffic. You notice the sign is posted so that trains in that direction are the only ones who can really see it. Now the reason for this is because of the area there. It's a low visibility area with a substation building nearby in some way, and so it reduces the visibility of the intersection. And because of the way that the circuits work, when a train gets close enough to an intersection, the intersection gate arms will go down, and this is true for trains in both directions. Then the train will be able to pass through, and then the gate arms will go back up. But when running reverse traffic, it is a little bit different because of needing to stop at the station, wait for the gate arms to go down, and make sure that they've been down for 10 seconds or more before proceeding through the intersection. So again, it takes forever to go through a manual block, through a certain section of track that trains are traveling in through both directions. But it might be kind of inconvenient and very slow, but it's the safest way of getting trains through the manual block. Okay, so let's go over all of the definitions and words in one go, and then that'll be it for this video. Firstly, running reverse traffic. This is the process of taking trains and running them in both directions on the same rail. Again, also known as wrong railing. A manual block is a stretch of track that the trains will be running reverse traffic. Running reverse traffic describes the process of trains going in both directions. A manual block is the section of track in which the trains will be running reverse traffic. And they're protected by flaggers, or in the case of rail, as supervisors, just like on a road, in a roadwork zone where trains have to go around the lane that's closed, and by having flaggers direct traffic in both directions through one lane. And dwarf signals protect power switches when trains run reverse traffic. They can only display a red and must be bypassed in order to proceed beyond the signal. That appears to be it for this video, and sorry for the abrupt ending, but goodbye.